I went to the three biggest model train exhibits in Germany, maybe the world. I went to several model train shops. But what was maybe the most special and most poignant model train occurrence I had? Come back after the titles and I'll tell you. Hey everybody, Anthony Dodge, Model Train Outsider, the Miracle Outsider here with the third of 3 videos, and this is my 4th attempt to do it. After trying to edit it this morning, I decided to reshoot the intro and all of this. I really want to keep this video short, but in the previous videos I showed you what was sent to me while I was in Germany and what I bought while I was in Germany. This video I'm going to show you something I guess you could say I bought, but it was a gift that I felt was too much of a gift, that it didn't warrant some sort of compensation for. Joyce and I stayed in the city of Bamberg for the last 5 days of our trip in Germany, and our host, the gentleman we rented an apartment from, was Horst, and Horst is definitely a few years older than me. And he welcomed us as soon as we arrived and showed us the apartment, and we talked and we talked and we talked about Bamberg and what we had done in Germany, and he asked us lots of nice questions about several factors of our stay in Germany. And then, oh, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a retired teacher. My wife's still a teacher. You're teachers? I was a teacher for 40 years. And we bonded and we talked about teaching and what subjects we taught and all that. And then somehow hobbies came up in our conversation. And this chat lasted a good 90 minutes upon our arrival in Bamberg. And I brought up I was into trains, and you're into trains? So yeah, well, being American, you do American trains? I said, no, I do German. And I explained the old story of how I got into model trains a few years ago because of my travels in Germany. And his eyes just kept growing big. When we mentioned we were teachers, he grew, and the smile on his face, and it was like instant friendship. And, he kept using the word colleagues to Joyce and me. We talked about model trains. He says, well, do you know Miracle? I'm like, well, of course I know Miracle. It's what I do, but I don't, I do only modern era, only passenger stuff. And he starts going, you come to my cellar, basement. And you come with me to the cellar. I said, well, we can't. We just got here. We want to sell. And he's like, oh, I understand. I'm sorry. I just, And he started explaining that he once had a big layout in a house, but in 2011, when they moved into this apartment building, he had to get rid of it all. He had to tear this beautiful layout down, and he sold off most of his collection, but he still had some things. He wanted to show me old Miracle. It's all from the 60s and 70s and maybe 50s, but it's nobody wants it. Family doesn't want it. And he was so enthusiastic about it. And of course, as a toy collector, I just love seeing old toys. I knew nothing he had would officially fit on my layout, but I was curious just to see old Miracle stuff. So to keep this short, he said, well, let me know when you have time, and we'll go down to the cellar and I'll show you what I have. And 2 days later, Joyce and I had spent the day at another town up the road, and we came back in the evening, and he clearly heard us because I just started a video phone call with my friend Jean Ricard, and there's a doorbell ringing. I was like, that's a doorbell? And nobody's ever rung a doorbell at our apartment anytime we've been in Germany over the years. And okay, we open up, and there's Horst. He says, you have time to come to the cellar now? And I said, well, I told Jean Ricard, I think we should, I've got to do this. And I got off the phone with Jean Ricard, and I looked at Joyce and says, you want to come along? She said, no, no, no. Boys with toys, you guys go. And he took me down into the lowest level of this old apartment building where he owns a few rooms. It's been in the family, put it that way. But he took us down and got the key and unlocked it, opens the door into this room, and it's definitely a very mildewy, moldy room. It's an old cellar, okay? This is not a finished basement like I have. It's an old cellar, and it's a storage room. And he's got all kinds of stuff from life stored there. And again, to keep this short, he unpiles some boxes of stuff, and he finds this one big box on the bottom in a corner, and it just says Model Bond on it. And he opens it up, and you just see the wads of newspaper. Well, it's not wads of newspaper. He's got all this stuff carefully wrapped in. And the first thing he pulls out is a bunch of magazines, and he shows he's got like an old Coles catalog, which is a catalog that does Märklin trains and what they're worth. And they probably do other companies, but I've only seen it in association with Märklin. And then there's this big plastic bag filled with mint condition M-track, the old Märklin metal track. You know, my stuff is called C-track, and there's K-track, which means Kunststoff, plastic, and M is metal. So it was the old Märklin metal track. Still 3-rail, but it's in great shape, and he's got an old gate that clearly has seen better days. And then he starts unwrapping and unwrapping these different old pieces, and many of them are just gorgeous, and some of them are in rough shape. But this is the stuff he didn't sell or couldn't sell, and it's what's left over. And he's just pulling out each piece, and you can see the memories coming back. You can see in his eyes he's remembering it running around his layout. And I'm looking at it not so much as a model train fan, but as a toy collector, and knowing what something means when a person immediately pulls it out and can remember playing with it, that special memory. And it was very surreal, and I'm looking at these and going, oh, this is cool. You know, this is a really well-made toy. This is really cool looking. But I'm also going, well, it's not my era. It's not my thing. I can't really see it on my layout. But he just keeps pulling stuff out. And I didn't even take pictures of all of it because we were talking, and I'm not thinking about taking pictures. I'm listening to the story and looking at the toy. And as he points out how it was made and how these things were done back in the day, I eventually did take a few pictures, but I did not take pictures of half of what he showed me. And then he pulls out the one that's still in a box, because most of the stuff is just wrapped in newspaper. And again, some of them are kind of roached. They've been sitting in a box in a dank basement for 12 years. And I'm just looking at stuff, but he pulled out this one rail bus that was not in a box. And it was really sharp, but it clearly needed a little bit of touch-up work. It needed cleaned up and fixed. But it was beautiful, and it was heavy, and it's just a small little rail bus, you know, this little one-person trolley car that would run the rails. And that's really cool. And he says, oh, wait, there should be another one in here. And he finally unwraps one, and he's got one still in the box. And it's beautiful. And as I'm looking at this, I'm saying, this is really cool. We pull out some passenger cars, some freight cars where he had made his own freight, and it was amazing, really skilled work. His layout must have been beautiful because his personal touches where he made his various hoppers and freight cars with the materials in it was top-notch. And he pulls out this one in the box, and I'm just enamored of it, not as a model train guy, but again, as a toy collector appreciates fine machined product. Maybe even my auto mechanic father's background as well, where I just appreciate well-made metal goods. There's just something about holding something made out of metal versus something made out of plastic. Metal just says permanence, strength. But anyhow, I'm just gonna, and he's like, you like that? I said, yeah. He said, it's yours. I said, this could be worth 2, 3, 4, $500. It might be a collectible item. You can't just give it that. It's yours. Your colleague, your friend. It's yours. I'm like, I don't know if I can accept a gift like this, and besides, it really wouldn't work on my layout. And he's just pulling out more and showing me more. Oh, here's this, and he pulls this out, and it's an old end of line boxcar where it's got the light on it saying end of train. And that was really cool, and it's got the rail on it. And he's just pulling all these cars, and none of them seem to be full, complete, consist. But they were beautiful. Even the ones that were getting a little rough in shape over the years, they were still very cool. And I've seen these models, but to actually hold them and have one close out of a box, you know, they're 50, 60, maybe up to 70 years old, and they're just great. And there's just so many of them. And he says, whatever you want, it's yours. I'm like, dude, we just met a couple of days ago, and yes, we've been talking on Airbnb, and we've been talking through text messages, but, you know, and definitely we're very friendly, but this is a huge, I says, you can't give all this, you know, why would you give all this to me? And he's your colleague. I said, yeah, but he says, where else is it going to go? When I die, it's going in the garbage. They will throw it away. My kids don't want it. My grandkids don't want it. I sold off what I could. I would rather it go to a home. And I'm just like, oh crap, that hit me in the heart. And I'm like, what do I do with all this? What do I do with all this? And he says, whatever you want, just take it. And we talked, and I finally just said, it's overwhelming. This is a lot. He says, well, I'll tell you what. I'll show you where I hide the key. You come back down when you have time tomorrow or the next day. Before you leave, just come back down and take what you want. I said, well, I would have to pay you for that. No, you don't pay. I said, oh, this is too much. You know, this was yours. This was your collection. These are your memories. I need, he says, well, you do what you think is right. But whatever you want, you can take. And I even joked about taking the whole thing, shipping it home. And you saw his eyes get super huge, like, that's not a bad idea. It's like, I couldn't afford it, and I wouldn't know where to put it that. But, you know, looking back, I'm like, well, maybe we could have worked something out. And there are people out there that maybe would have loved to take this stuff and fix it up. Old Miracle aficionados, and say, hey, I can fix that up, or what have you. But anyhow, it's already 13 minutes in on this video, and I haven't even showed you anything. I'm trying to show you pictures as I go along here before I get to the video of what I did take. But I did go back down into the keller, and I picked a few things out, more because I just like the color. I wasn't trying to make a complete and proper consist. They're just different things, mostly passenger cars, but I took a few things, and I did leave him a letter and some money because I felt I should pay for this, whether he meant it as a gift. Because I know some of the things I took might not have been worth the money I left them for it, for all of it, but the rail car alone, I think, is a steal if it works, and I won't know because it's analog and I'm all digital, but it's something I've decided I'm going to try to put a decoder in and really see what I can do with it. But the rest I took almost in memory of Horst's memories, if that makes sense to anybody. I don't know if that will mean anything, but these were something special to him, and I took them. So let's look at what I did pick up. All right, so here's most of what I picked up from Horst. Excuse me for the shaking camera. He did not have any complete sets of wagons where it was like this is all one rake and would go together. He had pieces, and I just grabbed ones that caught my eye. Now the first one here is Compagnie Internationale de Wagons Lits, which is CIWL, and those are the people that do the Orient Express. So this is by itself, but it was a blue Orient Express. It's the only Orient Express car he had. I just thought it was cool. Now if you look close, you can see the paint's been chipped and maybe a little bit of I don't know,
Ruster Maserati maybe coming in on that. But all metal. There is nothing plastic on here. I'm not worried about the wheels. I could change these out, but this is old Miraklin, and it's just all metal. And these are things that I might clean up as best I can, and maybe occasionally run them on my layout, but if anything, they'll be display pieces, and I'll see what I can do with that metal in time. It's nothing I'm going to take up now. Then I had a couple of these green Deutsche Bahn wagons, probably 60s era. I'm sure EFO, Jean Ricard, Raymond Lake, somebody can give much more information on them. It was a pair that seemed to be from the same consist, but I can't guarantee that they went together. But the coloring was close enough. It worked. And he only had these two. He had a couple of the same green that were DRG, which I thought was interesting. And he had a red car that was also DRG, but I like this one, which is a Speisewagen, and the logo matched these. So these may not have been part of the same consist, but I just thought they might look cool together, especially if I can clean them up. And like I said, I'll replace the wheels or clean up the wheels as best I can. A couple of tankers, and again, these I think have some small pieces broken off. But, you know, even if they're older tankers from the 70s, you still see some in use around today. So I thought those might still go on the my consist as well, just in memory of Horst and everything. And then this is one I liked. I'll put this at the end of my beer train. But this is a end of train car. There we go, DB. So actually I could put it on this train as well. And it's got the little red light, and there's the pickup shoe for third rail. So this actually lights up. I haven't tested it to see if it does. I will. So I picked that up. So let's go to the real pickup. Let's bring this in here. The Schienenbus. A rail bus. A Michelin. That box is in pretty good shape overall. Article number 3016. And just look at this. All metal. It's beautiful. We took it out of the case once. It is just, of all the pieces he had, this is the one that's in pristine shape. This one is in amazing shape, and I can't run it on my layout as is, but I think this one, we were talking about it, it would not be difficult to make it digital. It would not be difficult. But I just bought that because it was a kind of, to me, hit me as kind of a classic toy. I mean, I don't do rail buses. I don't do old Miraklin, and yet here I have this one, but he basically gifted that one to me. So it's just sort of a mind blown. And even if I did pay for some of this, there's no way you can pay for the memories and what these would have cost originally. I certainly didn't pay for that, which in a way is kind of a shame, but it's just an amazing. I bought these out of a melancholy mood to just have some old Miraklin, to just respect the tradition and to respect what Horst had at one time, because it was very special.
All right, so there was maybe the most special, most unique thing I did while in Germany. And so until the next time, everybody, auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, and happy trains. Take care.